Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sean O'Meara and I do a podcast called the Health and Wealth Optimization Podcast with a colleague, Eric Jungles, and I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. For those of you who don't know anything about me, I'm a health and performance optimizing physician. Really love this particular space of trying to get people optimally healthy to improve their health, to improve their appearance, and to improve their performance. I think it's a really important area. And today I'd like to do this video and review a particular study that I find very intriguing and hope to turn you guys on to research, and particularly the area of health optimization. So without further ado, let me just get into this particular study, which was conducted at the University of Geneva. It's a very interesting study. It happened to be a mice model because of what they did. It's really difficult to do for humans, but humans do this, but it's harder to study. So in this particular study, what they did in this application, they took mice and they exposed them to sustained temperatures of 93 degrees. So these mice were placed into an environment that was hot, 93 degrees Fahrenheit, and that was the investigational group. And they raised or exposed other mice to room temperatures, and I forget exactly what that temperature is, probably around 72 degrees. And they compared the mice looking at their bones. And so in particular, they were looking at for evidence of osteoporosis. So they evaluated the bone density and strength of these mice. And they found that the mice that were raised or in an environment of 93 degrees had stronger bones and more dense bones. So it wasn't just their strength, it was actually density of the bones were healthier. So the implication there is if you are in a higher temperature area, your bones benefit from the heat of being exposed to that higher temperature. But they did something else that was very interesting. They took these mice and had some raised, born in that environment, and kept them in that environment, and kept others that were born and raised in a cooler temperature. And what they found were the mice that were born from obviously a state of infancy and kept in that temperature, they not only had stronger, more dense bones, but they had longer bones. So this is an example of what's called the Allen's rule that has been known for a long time, and that is that animals that are in higher temperature environments where it's hotter have basically taller frames. And this makes sense because you want to have a frame that dissipates heat more. So this actually is seen in humans. So in Africa, where it's a higher temperature, you find some of the tallest people. They're tall and lean. So that is to help dissipate. They have greater body surface areas, so they can dissipate that heat. In environments where it's colder, where you want to conserve heat, you find populations of people that are shorter and more plump, such as Eskimos. So Eskimo frames, want to conserve heat, so they're shorter and thicker. And in Africa, they're taller and leaner. And this is as a direct result of basically heat. So in this particular study, they showed evidence of this mechanism at work in an animal model. In this case, it was mice. But they did something interesting. They analyzed the microbiome of these particular mice. So they looked at the different species of microbes that are within these mice. And they found that what really changed in these animals were a particular species, and it was interesting, they didn't name the species, which suggests to me that they probably want to keep that a little bit of a secret so that they can go on and maybe develop a patented form of replicating those particular species in a probiotic supplement form, and somebody will make some money out of it. But what they did reveal is the particular species that were responsible for this produced polyamine. So it basically produced a type of molecule that was associated with conserving bone strength, improving the density and strength of bones. So the mechanism was revealed in the particular study, and it was through the microbiome. Now, they did something really interesting, and I think it was really an important thing. They looked at humans and they looked at epidemiological data with regard to global applications. So specifically looked at humans at different regions, and they found that humans that were in hotter temperatures, more warmer environments, had lower incidence of hip fractures. So they were looking at the pathology of hip fractures, which has a high mortality if you're older. It's really something you want to avoid. As an ER physician, we'd see hip fractures. They're just really devastating because we knew what would happen. Very often the mortality within 1 year, if you're an older patient, the mortality is incredibly high with a hip fracture. So they looked at global data where people resided and for the incidence of hip fractures, and with regard to latitude, the higher your latitude, meaning the more you resided in a colder temperature, colder environment, the higher your incidence of hip fractures. And the lower the latitude, meaning closer to the equator, the lower the incidence of hip fractures. Now, they looked at in that particular analysis, they tried to normalize that to vitamin D, so vitamin D, the confounding potential effect, was it just from vitamin D, and did somebody take a lot more supplements, and what role did vitamin D? So they tried to normalize that to keep that from being a confounder, meaning something that would confuse the results. And what they found was it was really the heat and not the vitamin D or the level of calcium. This is the other thing they looked at. So in this particular analysis of humans, which was discussed in this study, and I think it's a fantastic study, and before I forget, let me put these citations up so that you can take a screenshot of the study and pull it up yourself and take a look at it. And for those of you who don't want to necessarily go through a study and look at it, because they oftentimes are pretty technical, this is a great study, a great article on the study in ScienceDaily.com, which is one of my favorite websites that I love to read because they have interesting articles, and then I'll pull the studies to take a look at. So screenshot both of those, and you'll be able to read the study, and you'll be able to take a look at an article if you don't want to read the study. So they eliminated vitamin D and calcium as a confounder, and they found it really was just the heat. So that's important to take home. But the other super interesting thing is they did so many interesting things in this study. I really love it. I hope you pull it and read it, or at least read the article. The other interesting thing is they took the microbiome. This is fantastic. They took the microbiome, basically feces from the mice that were exposed to the high temperatures. And they took those microbes out of those animals, those mice that were raised in those high temperatures, and they transplanted them into the body, the gastrointestinal tract, of mice that were kept in colder environments and not exposed to heat. And those mice benefited from those microbes, and they too in turn developed stronger, more dense bones. So what does that mean? This is super interesting. What that suggests to me, of course we've seen this in other models, is the importance of the microbiome. But from a treating or a health optimization standpoint, we may be able to take humans that are in hot environments and maybe that also expose themselves to short stress hormetic activities, like going into a really cold environment for a short period of time, such as taking a cold shower or going into ice water for a short period of time. Those activities are already identified as health conferring actions, meaning activity that you can do to improve your health. And animals that eat a better diet, animals that exercise, like really intense, high intensity exercise, animals that get sunshine, do all those things, and grab some of their microbiota, some of their feces, and share those microbes by transplantation, transplanted through what's called an FMT, fecal microbiota transplant, into animals or humans that don't. And those animals, it's suggested through this particular study, those humans that get that may in fact be able to derive the benefits, maybe not in the same level, but certainly probably some benefit from animals to go out and do that. So, let me sum that up. You could be a couch potato, maybe, sitting around eating Oreos and ice cream and cakes and cookies and surfing the internet, watching TV or whatever, and derive benefit from those that are out there exercising, doing the right things. You'll be able to potentially benefit. Now, how much? Probably not as much. And there's no doubt in my mind that I'm not sitting around waiting for that to happen, nor am I going to be in the camp that sits around and do that. Now, there are certain personalities, I call them campfire dwellers. They won't go out and hunt and gather. They'll just sit back. They'll tell stories. They laugh. They eat. They love food. They'll wait for the hunting party to come back, and they'll feed on that. And they probably play a role in entertainment and social interactions and stuff. They're important, but they're not out hunting and gathering, and so they're probably not the producers. They help in the society. Those people will probably want to get the FMTs for the rest of us who are out there doing the right thing. So interesting. I just want to expand your mind because the microbiome, when I put them up there, I think it's one of my most important and favorite interesting topics, but they get some of the least likes and the least commentary. And it's time we really start educating those of us that are in this particular space, physicians, health researchers, to start doing a better job with educating the community and people, the world, about the importance of the microbiome. So really, really important area. I hope you continue to follow me. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. My handle is just at DRSEANOMARA, at Dr. Sean O'Mara, on both Twitter and Instagram, and also on my my podcast, Health and Wealth Optimization Podcast and YouTube channel. And you can also follow me on my YouTube channel. And I hope if you continue to follow me that you can benefit from that. So at the same time I'm doing this video on this particular study, I just want to run by some interventions for you because I'm a health and wealth optimizing physician, and I'd like to take the opportunity during this video to share some interventions that you can do to help optimize yourself. So first of all, you should adopt a low carb, high fat, high protein diet. So what I recommend is either paleo, keto, or what's really interesting to me that I'm doing currently is the carnivore diet. So if you don't know about the carnivore diet, Google it, carnivore diet combo benefits, and take a look and see if that's something you may want to give it a try. And I think humans ought to consider giving it a try. It's like the ultimate elimination diet because you eat nothing but meat, basically animal products. I advocate eating dairy if it's fermented, so kefir and yogurt, not sweetened. The enemy tastes sweet. Don't go for the fruit. Don't go for anything sweet. Whole fat. So the tangy, the stuff that usually, if you're into eating sweet, good tasting things, you probably may not initially like those fermented dairy products. But those are the things you should be eating, and give it a try. And the other thing I advocate is eating a high healthy fat and high healthy proteins. So consuming your sources of fat and protein from the healthiest animals possible. So I advocate 100% grass-fed, pastured animals. I think it's important that you eat the healthiest animal because my perspective, and I've done reading on this, Native Americans and tribal people, humans are different when we hunt, and we would hunt the healthiest animals. So we wouldn't be going after the babies. We wouldn't be going after the limping old animal that was dragging its hind quarters around and had some kind of big infection or something. We go for the healthiest looking animal because they had the most nutrition and they had the healthiest microbes on their body, so we could benefit from their microbiome. So humans, unlike all other predators, like the animal world, lions, tigers, other carnivores that would hunt, predators, they go for the easiest ones, but we have a cerebral cortex. And we could figure out patterns. And the patterns we figured out is the healthiest animals made us more healthy. So be selective. You know, you can't maybe go out and hunt, you live in a lifestyle, but select the best animals when it comes to your food source, the healthiest possible food sources. So whole forms of foods. And I recommend eating a predominantly meat-based diet, healthy fats, and not artificial synthetic fats. The more humans get involved in food production, the more we mess it up. So eat it in whole food form, just, you know, meat, not a lot of processing to it. And the only processing I recommend, and I do eat some vegetables, is natural processing, fermentation. So eating fermented vegetables, I think, is an important contribution because you get microbes. And so I recommend, kimchi, and I like glass jars rather than plastic ones. But here is a plastic jar. You can get it from Costco. I don't have any relationship with any of these companies, but this is a very good source of, from an economic standpoint. I have not done CFU's colony forming unit counts on this particular brand of kimchi, but if you're looking at eating some fermented vegetables, and I hope you consider doing that, those are a couple places. Costco is a good place to get some fermented. Whole Foods sells fermented vegetables, and any kind of a natural food store is going to have ferments. Get started in small amounts and work your way up. Now, the other thing that is really important is fasting. So I recommend doing something called OMAD, O-M-A-D. Google it so you get exposed to see what other people are doing. It's 1 meal a day. So work your way up to just eating 1 meal a day, and then also adopt a practice of extended fasting, such as fasting for a longer period of time. So I try pretty routinely to fast at least 48 hours straight once a week. And then every other week I do 72 hours. So I do a 2-day fast once a week, and then the following week I do a 72-hour fast. And that works out really well for me, and I get the benefits of it, and I see it. I feel it. And so I think it's really helping to improve my health and improve my performance. So I recommend it to my followers. So I think fasting is a really important addition to optimizing your health. And then I recommend walking a lot and standing a lot. I happen to be sitting here right now to do this video just because the angles work out and I have to have stuff in front of me, and so here I am sitting. But otherwise I pretty much stand all day long, and I do lots of walking. I stand at desk. So if you just stand up, you burn about 100 calories an hour. So if you just stand for about 16 hours a day, that's 1,600 calories you're burning just from standing. And it preserves your strength. We sit around and it contributes to sarcopenia. You're not firing your muscles, using it to maintain your posture. So since I've been standing more, my posture has improved quite a bit. I stand a lot more erect, and I definitely feel better by standing. So stand, move a lot, walk a lot. Walking is just an absolute fantastic activity, improves your blood flow. And we're predominantly hunter-gatherers, meant to move around and itinerant, so walking is super important. And the other important aspect is to optimization is the type of exercise you should be doing. So real quick, you could do hours on exercise, but the two things that I like to promote that I think separate me from other people is that I've come to realize that human beings stayed connected to the gene pool, making contributions based on two traits that they had to be able to do. And this is my opinion, but those two traits, if you had to do some kind of exercise or you had to do some sort of physical activity, it was really good. The two things you had to really be good at was sprinting as fast as you can, because you had to catch animals and you had to keep animals from catching you, to include other Homo sapiens, humans trying to catch you and kill you. So your capacity for sprinting allowed you to stay alive. So it's a survival trait. The other survival trait that goes along with sprinting and keeping you alive is fighting. You had to be strong to fight, to defend yourself from other animals that are trying to kill you, to include other humans. And you had to be able to be strong to kill other animals to eat them. So the ability to fight is an important trait. Now, today, applying it to modern lifestyle is a little difficult. We can't, I work with people that are interested in optimizing their health, and I don't go out there and tell them to consume alcoholic beverages and pull a knife and get in a knife fight at a bar. That certainly is not conducive to health. But to exercise in a manner that replicates or emulates the capacity to fight. So doing exercise, high intensity exercise, is similar to fighting. So that can be push-ups, pull-ups, gymnastic rings, or something that I promote, and parallel bars and climbing ropes and actions that require a lot of high intensity exercise. So to try to exercise in a much shorter period of time, but much higher level of intensity. And I am not a big advocate of endurance. I think we're going to find endurance exercises may if you do it, maybe a little bit, but too much, I think, is a problem. I think we're going to find that out. So the other things that I think are important to do is to optimize some areas that you can concentrate. And you're going to have to Google, because I can't, this video could go on for a year on these subjects. And so I'm just going to introduce the topics to you, briefly talk about them so that you can develop an interest. If you develop an interest, then you start applying it better in your life. So I'm going to introduce this to you, a molecule, these topics, a molecule called oxytocin. Oxytocin is a really, really interesting molecule, and it is definitely something that you want to get more in your life. So oxytocin is produced endogenously inside your body. Now, they are making synthetic forms. I don't recommend them. You want to basically get your body upregulating and making that kind of capacity. How do you do it? It's you get it just through touch. Touching humans, having physical contact with humans. So scratching backs. Something. We grew up in my family scratching backs. That kind of activity, physically touching another human being, particularly a human that you like, is important. So families, bond together, get close together by this molecule oxytocin. So scratching backs, massages, cuddling, just being next to another human being, husband and wife being close to each other. When a baby is born, it's placed on the mother's chest, and the mother is encouraged to breastfeed that child. Oxytocin is released and it helps that baby and that mother bond. So it's this really special molecule that you want to get more of. And another really interesting one that I promote is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is produced by a variety of different tissues. One really important tissue is the cells that line your vasculature. So your blood vessels are lined with these endothelial cells, so it's really, really important to your health. And they produce nitric oxide, and it's also produced in your mouth. So through the microbiome, your oropharyngeal microbiome. So if you disrupt these tissues and disrupt these environments, you get less nitric oxide. So taking mouthwash and a lot of chemicals in your toothpaste disrupt these microbes, and we can see that it has an impact in blood pressures, hypertension, and different conditions. That nitric oxide is associated with helping to improve your cardiovascular health. It can be impaired when we disrupt your microbiome in your mouth. And so nitric oxide is important. Nitric oxide gets produced also through exercise. And a really cool one is nitric oxide gets produced through sunshine. But if you're following the advice of a lot of doctors and dermatologists tell you to wear sunscreen and don't go out in the sun because you could damage yourself, you're missing out this glorious molecule. So one really interesting thing is I have visible pulses, and I don't know if it's going to show up because my camera is I have an older iPhone camera, but I have my radio pulse, and I can't tell because the lighting on this camera is visible virtually all the time now. It used to be just kind of come and go. But what's interesting to me is I go outside in the sunshine, and the magnitude, the capacity, how large that pulse becomes significantly enhanced when I go out in the sunshine. Now, if you don't have a visible pulse, you're not aware of that. But I got one. So I go outside in the sun and I see my pulse getting stronger. I can see the direct effect, the benefit of sunshine on my blood flow. And that's really great. So I'm trying to promote this. Sunshine is great. Get out there. And the world doesn't know about it because the world doesn't really have visible pulses. So you watch, you do these things to improve your health, you too will start getting visible pulses. And what that means is your arteries are not so rigid. Arterial stiffening and hardness of arteries impairs the capacity for blood flowing. So watch as you optimize your health, your blood flow, your arterial pulsations will improve. You'll see them typically better in your abdomen from your aortic pulse, and then your brachial artery and your region of your biceps, right here where I'm pointing, your radial arteries. I can see them now in the distal part of my feet, my dorsalis pedis, my posterior tibialis. I see them around my knees and in my thighs and my iliacs. So these are super exciting. I just really love that my blood flow is improving. So nitric oxide is a molecule by which that is being enhanced. So sunshine, and I also see it being improved when I exercise. High intensity exercise releases that, and the magnitude of the visible pulses improves, and also through fasting. So when I've done an extended fast, 48, 72 hours, I see those pulses a lot bigger than when I'm in a feeding state. So nitric oxide is really important. And then the microbiome is really important to optimize your microbiome. So I mentioned fermented foods. I hope you whenever you eat meat, make sure you're eating some amount of fermented foods. That kimchi, fermented probiotic sauerkraut, even unpasteurized probiotic apple cider vinegar, with the mother in it, so that you can get those, and the more variety the better. You don't have to eat a lot of the stuff you're getting microbes. It's not so much quantity, it's variety that I like to promote with the microbiome. And stop harming the microbiome. So chlorinated water, chlorine in water is placed there to stop microbes, bacteria. Well, that goes in your gut and it's disrupting your microbiome. So if you want to enrich your microbiome and have this kind of benefit, you got to stop doing things that harm it. Another one is antibiotics. Now, I'm not coming out against antibiotics, but we got to be smart about the application of the antibiotics. And a lot of patients would walk into my ER, urgent cares that I work, and they would demand an antibiotic. I said, good thing. And I was like, wow, they just have no idea. They just think, I got to get that antibiotic. Well, better to watch a condition to see if you really need an antibiotic. Now, if you absolutely need an antibiotic, they're life-saving in the right condition. But I just think we use it way too much. And studies now show that the earlier you've been exposed to an antibiotic as an infant or a child, the more likely it is that you'll become obese or diabetic. So it's really interesting, and I think back at all the times that I unfortunately prescribed antibiotics in the ER when I was working in emergency medicine for kids, and I recognized it was just not the right thing to do. So we're going to learn more about antibiotics and hopefully cut back on inappropriate use of antibiotics, or just eliminate inappropriate use of it, and make sure we use it when it's really indicated. The other important thing is mitochondria. I think mitochondria is super interesting. Google, mitochondrial biogenesis. Read about your lifestyle and activities and strategies for improving the mitochondria. Fasting is a big one, so I highly recommend fasting. And then sleep optimization. If you're not sleeping and you're impaired sleeping, and I'm in the Army National Guard, and I get a lot of soldiers talking to me how they take sleep aids. Good grief. If you're taking medications to help you sleep, you've got to change your life. You do not want to do something supernatural, a really important activity like sleep, through a drug. Ambien and these other sleep aids, highly associated with increased mortality from taking that. Sleep is so important to you. So make sure you optimize your sleep optimization, sleep strategies. Google it, find out about it. Read Dr. Matthew Walker's book. I think he's a really great, renowned authority on sleep. Listen to him on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's a great podcast, Dr. Matthew Walker. He's also been on Dr. Rhonda Patrick's podcast. He's just a fantastic guy, and he'll turn you on to the importance of sleep. And then sunshine, I talked about the need to get out in the sunshine for its effect for nitric oxide, but it has so many other positive contributions and attributes that I think are really important. You get out in the sun and get some daily exposure. Just take your shirt off. It increases your testosterone production just getting out in the sun, and so many other health conferring benefits getting out in the sun and getting out in fresh air. So I want you to do that. And then stress hormetics. Stress hormetics are really important. So basically, I'll sum it up this way: that which does not kill you makes you stronger. So things that are, difficult to endure for a short period of time actually provided some benefits. So my favorite one is sauna, and I just got out of my sauna. I tried a sauna 30 minutes a day. The studies show if you just do at least 15 minutes a day, significant reduction in cardiovascular disease, so heart attacks and strokes, and it's dose dependent. So if you do it 1 to 2 times a week, you get benefits, but if you do it 5 to 7 times a week, it almost doubles the benefits in terms of reduction of all-cause mortality and reduction in death from heart attacks and strokes, and a significant reduction in dementia. I mean, one study showed a 66% reduction in dementia if you use a sauna 5 to 7 times a week. So question, what do you know that's out there that will reduce dementia risk 66%? And why isn't your doctor talking to you about that? We don't have any effective anti-dementia drugs. Heat in a sauna does that. So this is my passion. I really want to help optimize people, optimize their health, optimize their performance, optimize their appearance. I think these are the strategies that are important objectives that we need to do, not just get a little bit healthy. You need to get as healthy as you possibly can. Why? Because you're going to live longer and you're going to live way better. So a saying, I'm going to finish this sauna with this one saying that I just learned yesterday. I'm going to do today what others won't, so I can do tomorrow what others can't. So think about that. Do today things that other people are not doing. They don't want to do it. So in the future, you can do stuff that they're not going to be able to do. So that's really it, summing it up. If you like this video, give it a like. If you really like it, start subscribing to me. Share it with other people so they can learn about this interesting study in association with heat and the microbiome, understand some of these concepts and these strategies that I shared towards the end. And, give me some comments. Hopefully, maybe I can do videos that specifically focus some of these recommendations that I discuss in greater detail so you can understand it more, and ask questions and share it with other people, repost it, and send it to others so that they can benefit from this as well. Also, let me know if you have any other ideas for videos or shows that you'd like to have me and Eric do on the Health and Wealth Optimization Podcast and YouTube channel, or anything, any comments or questions that you might have. So thank you very much, and look forward to sharing some more in the future. Take care.